trauma and PTSD, understanding and seeking help. The interesting thing about this kind of topic is something that we encounter every now and then. I mean, I'm able to say that one of the biggest things I'm about to deal with as a professional is trauma and PTSD. So I've made the slides as simple as possible and in a way that everybody can understand it, because I believe strongly that when you want to share things with people, it's important to do it in ways that they understand themselves, or they understand what you're to share with them. It's not a thing of pride if people don't understand what you're with definition. So what we're going to learn today basically is the goal is to develop a mental health awareness around trauma, PTSD, and the understanding that help exists as a type of. So we're going to look at definition of trauma and PTSD, how they affect our day-to-day activities or lives, seeking help, why it's important, recognizing when to seek help, the treatment options that exist for trauma and PTSD, supporting someone with trauma and PTSD, breaking the stigma, and of course, we will conclude on it. So what is trauma? Trauma is a psychological and emotional response to an event or experience that is deeply distressing or disturbing. We need to hold that seriously. It is a psychological or emotional response, not the activity now, but the psychological or emotional response to an event or an experience that is deeply distressing. So what are some of the examples of these traumatic events? You have natural disasters like floods, volcanoes, and stuff like that. You have abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse. You have war and violence, or war or violence. You have accident or sudden loss. So the key point for us here is to realize that trauma impacts everyone differently. So please never make that attempt of someone sharing with you what they went through and how it has affected them, and you are quick to say, your own is small. If you know what happened to me, no, don't you ever do that. Don't you ever do that. Because when you do that, you kind of like limit the experience of the person, as though you make mockery of the experience of the other person. So everyone gets impacted differently by trauma, okay? Now, what is PTSD? PTSD is known as post-traumatic stress disorder. It is a mental health condition triggered by experiencing or witnessing a traumatic event. Can you see the difference now? Trauma is a response to a traumatic event or experience, right? While PTSD is a condition, a mental health condition triggered by experiencing or witnessing an event. So trauma is a response to an event in itself, right? That means this event has happened, and how are you responding to it? Whereas PTSD is that condition now that is triggered because you have experienced or you have witnessed a traumatic event. And what are some of the symptoms that exist? For you to say that you have PTSD, these are some of the things that you would notice: intrusive memories or flashbacks, avoidance of reminders of the trauma, negative changes in mood and thinking, hyperarousal. When we talk about hyperarousal, we're talking about irritability, you're having trouble sleeping, you have heightened alertness. Normally, you're supposed to be alert as an individual, right? Part of your what makes you Mr. Niger D, right? Irritability is one of them, right? But when you have high irritability or heightened alertness, that's a sign that perhaps someone is dealing with PTSD. The prevalence is it affects adults, affects children, and anyone exposed to trauma, which means PTSD knows no age, knows no gender, knows no social status. It affects both adults and children alike. Okay, so it's important for us to know the difference between these two. Trauma is the psychological and emotional response to an event or experience that is disturbing to you. So when you hear things like, I'm traumatized, it is how your emotions feel towards an event that stressed you, that is distressing, or that is disturbing to you, right? It is how your psychological well-being is towards an event that is stressful or that is disturbing to you. So maybe you witnessed the crashing of a building, right? And you're like, oh God, man, there are people in that building. What will be happening to them right now? or you experience an abuse, right? And all of those things. So it is your response to them. Whereas for PTSD, it is now a condition. So trauma is not a mental health condition. PTSD is a condition that arises from trauma. I hope we get it now. PTSD is the experience that arises from trauma, whereas trauma itself is the experiencing of the event in itself. Okay. So how do these two things affect us? Trauma and PTSD, how do they affect us? Number one is they affect us emotionally. So you could find yourself being anxious, anxiety. You could find yourself experiencing depression. You could have yourself dealing with fear. You could even have yourself dealing with shame. For example, a lot of times, people who experience abuse tend to become ashamed because they feel like, who will believe me? And so rather than talk to people, they hide themselves or run away, right? Especially when it has to do with sexual abuse. Even for men, realize that men who go through emotional abuse find it difficult to speak up because it's a shame to them, right? They think that, oh, who will believe me that my wife or my partner is abusing me emotionally? Who will believe me that my partner is beating me? I'm supposed to be the man. How can she be beating me? In case you don't know, these things exist, okay? And so you find out that shame exists. People begin to feel depressed. People begin to struggle with anxiety. For someone who has experienced a traumatic event, who is now experiencing PTSD, let's assume that maybe the person was working at an high-rise building, right, when the collapse happened. It is possible that anytime such a person has to walk by a high-rise building, that anxiety exists and, okay, this building should not go and collapse now. So that is the emotional aspect. You have this physical aspect, sleep disturbances, you're having flashbacks. You cannot sleep. Once you close your eyes, be as if you are seeing that thing again, or you are feeling that thing again. Headaches too exist, and then fatigue. You are just tired. You can't tell why you are tired. You're just tired. The third heading is social. So it affects us socially. For example, you withdraw from relationships. Let me tell you something for free. A number of times, people who have experienced emotional abuse or sexual abuse tend to have a perception about the opposite sex, and because of that, they want to stay away from the opposite sex. They just believe that there is nothing good from the opposite sex, and so because of that, they decide that they want to stay away. They formed a thought or formed an opinion about the opposite sex. All right, difficulty trusting others, so all of these things affect our social interaction. And just to explain here that when we talk about mental health, we talk about 5 pillars, right, that guide mental health. You have the physical well-being, the social well-being, the emotional well-being, the psychological well-being, the cognitive well-being, and the physical well-being. All of these come together to determine our mental health. So how is your social well-being, ability to interact with people? How is your emotional well-being, how you feel, your emotions? How is your cognitive well-being, what you think, how you think, right? What's your physical well-being? How is it affecting you? How do all of these things affect you being able to, move around, go out, attend to your day-to-day activities? Okay, your psychological well-being is basically your psyche. What's your perception about something? Now, let me also now say here that PTSD and trauma can also affect us occupationally. So you're having challenges in focusing at work. Definitely, your productivity will drop because of how you feel emotionally. That has now affected your physical well-being, which in turn affects your social well-being. You begin to practice absenteeism. You don't want to show up. You won't show up for work. You won't show up to school. You won't show up to events that you have to participate in. So these 4 headings show how trauma and PTSD can actually affect us. And like I said earlier, it knows no age, it knows no gender, it knows no race or color. All right, let's continue. So we look at seeking help and why it's important to seek help. Now, you see, there is nothing you want to do when you find yourself in this kind of situation. No miracle exists, right? Whether you have your faith, as of any religion whatsoever, if you do not treat trauma, it gets worsened over time, right? So it's important to seek early intervention that can lead you to better recovery outcomes, because healing helps to rebuild your life. Healing helps to rebuild your relationship. Healing helps to rebuild your work life. Healing helps to rebuild your self-esteem. Healing helps you to understand that, look, this might have happened, but it is not your fault and it's long gone. You have to, go through that journey of healing. So it is important, right, to seek early intervention that can help you recover quickly, because if you leave it untreated, it can worsen over time. So what are the treatment options that exist? First one I will look at is a subheading called psychotherapy. Now, under psychotherapy, I will call cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. Someone might have heard of CBT before. So CBT is a widely used psychotherapy approach that focuses on identifying and changing negative thought patterns and behaviors. I practice within the range of CBT. And so for individuals with trauma or PTSD, basically, CBT helps to recognize and challenge your thought. That's called cognitive behavioral therapy. Cognition is thinking. Of course, behavior is behavior. So your thinking affects your behavior. So what CBT does, it allows you to recognize and challenge the distorted thought that are related to those events. Then it replaces negative beliefs with more realistic and constructive ones. This is very important. It first of all recognizes and challenges your distorted thoughts with respect to the traumatic events. Next is that it helps to replace negative beliefs with more realistic and constructive ones. Then it develops coping strategies to manage stress and anxiety. It often involves structured sessions where patients work with a therapist to address specific triggers and build resilience over time. One of the things that I do when people reach out to me is to first of all begin with, what do you think of this event has happened? And what do you think of yourself with respect to this event? How do you think it has over time affected your behavior? Because if you are not able to harness your thoughts, you won't be able to look at how your thoughts are affecting your behaviors. So it's important that we pay attention to your thoughts, right? Because that's where CBT comes in. CBT now has to look at, okay, this is your thought. Let us look at your thoughts, because your thoughts get distorted, right? So let's recognize, and this challenge that distorted thought, first of all. What are the beliefs that you have? Let us correct those beliefs and look at what is realistic. For example, you are sleeping and you think that somebody is carrying you from your bed. How realistic is that? You are the only one in the house. Every door is locked. But perhaps, you had a traumatic experience where you were forced, out of where you are. You are forced out of where you are to do something. So CBT helps to kind of like now harness your thoughts and do it in a way that you are able to come to what is realistic and what is real. The next one is the eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. We call it EMDR. Now, this is a very specialized technique because it's designed to help you reprocess and recover. So what it does is that it combines guided eye movements or other forms of bilateral stimulation. I don't want to bug you with all of these, right? It's a bit more complex than CBT. So what this process does is that it reduces the emotional distress. It works on your memory. Then also it reframes your negative beliefs tied to that trauma. Then it facilitates the brain's natural healing process by integrating unresolved memories. So it's very effective for PTSD and it achieves significant results. So you have fewer sessions, right? And you're able to achieve significant results in short time. I have a course on Udemy concerning EMDR. Usually it's not a technique that therapists will go into quickly, right? Because even though you can achieve results in a short while, it's usually a bit tasky, right? But it's very, very, very effective. So another treatment option is medication. You have antidepressants, you have anti-anxiety medication. It's important, though, to state here that only doctors, in this case, psychiatrists are the doctors who specialize in the treatment of mental health issues, diseases, breakdowns, and all of that. They are the only ones who can prescribe medication. So usually, the line of treatment goes from you talk to a therapist. Now, a therapist could be a psychotherapist, a clinical psychologist, and all of that. Now, they are able to deploy any form of therapeutic techniques, right? But a situation where the assessment or the diagnosis shows that this has gone from what we would call mild and has gone to chronic, and they feel like you need medication, then they refer you to a psychiatrist who is able to look at the report and now prescribes medication and follows through. Let me share an experience with you. And it's a very personal experience. And I shared this experience a number of times when I had the opportunity to speak, that people would understand that anybody, especially with depression, anybody can experience depression. So in 2021, I was diagnosed with depression, anxiety, and stress. And when I met with the psychologist, realized that, okay, it had gotten to a stage where just therapy alone was not going to help me. So he referred me to a psychiatrist. So I was placed on medication. So you have different medications depending on how far gone you are, right? And the dosage that it's just like the same way when you go to a normal hospital for your medicals and then they prescribe medications, everything has dosage. Another thing that works is support groups. So you have peer support and shared experiences. So you have people who live the experience. Live the experience are those who have had one form of mental health challenges or the other, right? So they call them people with lived experience. So you have people with lived experience, you form a peer group, a peer support group, you're helping each other. I used to call it brothers in arms because so you are here like, oh, I used to struggle with this, even though I'm much better now, this and this and this I did. And there is someone who is just starting the journey that you have left. So you're there, say, okay, no worry. I can imagine how you feel. I was there about a year ago. So how are you doing now? This, like that. So I call it brothers in arms. Another treatment option is self-help strategies, mindfulness, journaling, especially with your thoughts. Your ability to put down what you're thinking is one step to your healing. Because one of the biggest challenges that exist is the inability to give name to how you are feeling, right? So you have all of these, you have medication, you have support groups, you have self-help strategy. Mindfulness is important. So mindfulness is your ability to sit still and say, okay, what exactly or how exactly am I thinking, or why am I thinking the way I'm thinking? And then you're able to go through that journey of why you have such thoughts in your head. That's what we call mindfulness, and then be able to center yourself. Exercise helps us as well. It doesn't have to be rigorous exercise. It could be taking a stroll, in a safe environment, or just going to the gym, some light jogs. As much as you are able to interact with people, it's also important that you're able to interact with people. And that's also the advantage of the peer support group. This peer support group may not even be physical. I mean, with the age of technology, you all could be in a WhatsApp group or a Telegram group, and then once in a while you have this call, you have that one person, amongst all of those things. So those are treatment options for trauma and PTSD. How do you support someone with trauma or PTSD? This is because we want to make sure that everyone gets help, support, and access to mental health professionals. So I will share with you very brief do's and don'ts in your attempt to support someone or people with trauma or PTSD. Come along with me. Do's: listen without judgment. I know there's this trend going on now. We listen, we don't judge. Yes, do not judge. Now, I was scrolling through Instagram today, and I saw a post by a minister, a pastor, about someone who was addicted to sleeping with prostitutes, and he's now changed and even now sharing his experience and then using it to, correct people what not to do and all of that. And I went through the comment section. Oh my God, man, people are so vile. They didn't even wait to even listen to everything he has to say, or even wait for the full video, because what was posted on Instagram was a clip. But that tells you that we're human because emotions run. But if you're going to help someone with a traumatic experience, you can't afford to judge the person. You can't say, you two, what did you wear? That's why they raped you. You two, why did you walk in that place alone? That's why they raped you. You two, why did you climb that building? You two, why did you go and visit that person? You're not supposed to be in your house by that time. You two, you see now, you went there. And so you can't afford to judge. If you know that you can't hold off judging, then don't listen. Direct them to people that listen. Let me tell you for free. Studies have shown that what kills people faster is not even the illness or the things that people say. Look, if you meet someone who is HIV positive today, we have realized that what makes them die faster is not even the virus in itself, the AIDS. It is the fact that people stigmatize them. So please, if you're going to listen, don't judge. If you know that you will judge, just walk away. Just walk away. Also, encourage seeking professional help. If you're not a professional, encourage that they seek professional help. Don't become an advisor. Don't become an advisor, an advisor. You can only be an encourager. Encourage them to seek professional help while still offering your consistent support. You can always check on them, like, how you doing? I just thought to check on you. Have you eaten? Are you okay? Or let's take a walk. So it will be only you. Just offer that support. And don't offer support that becomes overwhelming to them. Offer the support that is within the ambit of what they can handle, and gradually, their bandwidth begins to increase. So don't be overzealous with your support. And we know you care, we know you are kind, you are good. Thank you very much. But don't be overzealous with your support. Don't start from high. No, remember that this person is going through a phase. So take it gradually, take them from what they are comfortable with, and then let them grow through it. Now, don't pressure them to get to it. You get over it. You to get over it, it's taking too long. Are you the only one? See this person, get over it. No, don't do that. Don't do that. And like I said at the beginning, don't minimize their feelings or experiences. Don't say because you have experienced this before, then now let them your own is small. Now, when my own happened, if I tell you, you know that your own is small, please, no. We all have different thresholds. So that it happened to you. You listen to another person and you keep quiet. But that's not how you show help. That's not how you show support. Listen to them, encourage them, be their support, and encourage them to seek professional help. If you are not trained professionally, Google is not your help or your professional. Please and please. Don't go and open Google and they are telling them, okay, so I read this on Google. What if you do this? Yes. You can check on Google, but check resources through Google, not Wikipedia. Check resources written by professionals through Google. For example, I have books, right, that I've written on grief and depression. I have a book that I've written on eating fit. I have a book that I've written on snoring. I have a book that I've written on, stress, how to break up stress. So if you go to Google, for example, and you type my name, Tolusegun Francis, it will bring out all of those things, or even interview that I've had, blogs that I've written, right? But that is not Google. So you now clicking on those links to see that, okay, this was said by a specialist or a professional, gives context. But if you just go out to, and then Wikipedia or AI, now gives you idea, and now go and meet your friend. So I read this thing though. So what if, please, please, okay? Now, we need to break the stigma. We need to break the stigma. You and I have a responsibility to break the stigma. And how can we do that? One, by normalizing mental health conversations. Let people be able to talk without feeling judged. Two, encourage open conversations about trauma and recovery. Understand that not everybody will recover the same way. Not everybody will recover easily. People will go through that journey. Thirdly, advocating for accessible mental health services. The world has gone digital now. You can stay in your house and consult a mental health professional, right? So you don't even have to leave where you are. So there is access to healthcare, to mental health care, across the world. Social media, if you go on Twitter, for example, like, oh, I need to talk to a mental health professional, they will recommend a whole lot to you that you have options to pick from. And if you're with someone, I realize that, oh, this person is not giving me the help that I need, is not matching my need, you're able to switch to another person. Same way you change a hospital or change a doctor, you don't have to be stuck to a professional. In conclusion, PTSD and trauma are manageable with the right support and resources. Two, seeking help is a sign of strength, not weakness. Three, together, we can focus a community of understanding and healing. My call to action is, if you or someone you know is struggling, reach out to a professional or a trusted support system. Got questions? I'm here to answer your questions.